my name is LoG, and welcome to part 4 of this small arpeggio power-up. If you enjoy this type of instruction and material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below for my entire guitar method. And now let's get on to the lesson. Alright, so as usual, a real quick recap of what we talked about in the previous section. The main new section that we learned were those 4-string chord shapes that we were always kind of descending and then jumping up, hitting a scale, descending the chord shape, jumping up, hitting a scale. Sounded like this. And we ended right here, and that is where we're going to begin this section. Very similar to what we did, coming down these 4-string chord shapes, just kind of hitting some different chords. And we are also going to introduce some chord shapes that are not major or minor, which just might be interesting, give you some more stuff to practice. So the first shape, remember where we are, we're coming down from this G right here. By the way, the way that we ended the previous part, I was just casually doing this, up the B7, and then ending on my middle finger. However, for this part, I would really train your hand to end on the pointer finger because you're going to need that finger to be there so you can play the rest of the chord, right? So coming from the previous section, the last bit of the previous video, B dominant 7th, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, pointer finger right here, okay? And you come down an E minor chord with its third on the top and on the bottom, right? That 4-string chord shape with the top note doubled on the bottom. The actual chord shape looks like this if I play it. Okay, so here's our E minor, standard E minor in this position. Instead of playing root right there, we're just playing the 3 right here. So we're coming down like this. Okay, so that's flat 3, then 1, 5, flat 3. If you want to get like a major shape comparison, it would look like this. This is the major shape, very common shape that people play. E major, normal 3, 1, 5, 3. Like a lot of people play this kind of shape, do little hammer-ons and stuff. We're playing the minor version of that. So this shape, whenever you play like a classic like Hendrix style shape, I'm sure you've heard that before. That's really 3, 5, 1, and then if you play the B string, another 3. When you play this chord, that's the major shape. If you take the bottom and top notes, move them both back a fret, but keep the 5th and root, the middle 2 notes, now you have the chord we're talking about right here. Just, put it into reference for you. So how I'm playing this again, flat 3, root 5, flat 3. My fingering has sort of changed. I feel like this is a better fingering to do pointer, middle, pointer, ring. But I think as I've been practicing it, I've just been playing it almost exactly like the chord shape is. So yeah, pointer, ring, middle, pinky. That might be a little too cluttered feeling for some of you. So maybe experiment with pointer, middle, pointer, ring. And then keep in mind, the next thing you have to do is jump up to this high note right there, pretty much exactly like we've been doing. So whatever fingering makes sense to you, keep that in mind. But I think I'm literally playing it as the chord would be played, the exact same fingering. Pointer, ring, middle, pinky. Regardless, watch my right hand, exact same thing as I've been doing. Downstroke, upstroke, follow through. Then jump up to the high string to that note right there. It's exactly the same move we've been doing. Now it's not really root and third like it has been before because now we're playing E minor. Now it's flat 3 and 5. Not necessarily that important, but keep it in mind. Coming down the chord, jumping up. Now watch this figure. Okay, so we are sort of coming back to B minor. It's really E minor, little passing tone in there to B minor. Now, there are a couple different ways to play this. I'm playing it in a way that might be not the best fingering for some of you, but I'll go over 2 fingerings that might work. What I'm doing, again, jumping up to the high string, walking down a scale figure that looks like this. Okay, so that's of E minor. That would be 5, 4, flat 3, passing tone. It's like F natural, flat 2 of E, but that's really just a passing tone into F sharp, the 5 of the next chord. That's all I'm thinking about. So that's the fingering I'm doing personally. So pointer, ring, pinky, and then coming down the arpeggio right here of B minor, 5, flat 3, 1, 5. It's really based off this minor chord shape right here that we went over in part 1 of this whole series. I'm just also adding in the 5 up here. Remember what this shape was? It feels like just the A, D, G strings of a B minor chord. So that's the 5th root, flat 3. I'm also adding the 5th up top. And how I'm doing that is this. Coming down that E minor figure, the passing tone, this is the 5. I'm playing 5, pull off to the flat 3, root, and then 5th. And then we start something else. So that's a fine fingering, but there's another one that might be better for you. I actually don't really know why I settled on this one. It just came natural to me, so I'm doing it. But the other fingering is this. Instead of doing B, A, G, passing tone, F sharp right here, you can also do this. The same thing, B, A, G, passing tone, and then the note F sharp right here. So instead of doing this, you can go like this, which would then allow you to come down the B minor chord pretty much in its entirety. Right? 5, flat 3, root 5. Check it out. It's kind of this shape right here. Again, that full bar chord shape if you only played the 4 middle strings. So that would look like this. One more time. Instead of passing to here, I'm passing on the pinky note, that F natural, then coming down the chord like that. So that's another possibility. Another possibility is this. Same 3 notes, B, A, G. Instead of playing the passing tone here, the F, just keep it on the B string. Like that, and then slide up, come down the chord. That's also possible. I kind of like that one the best because that also allows you to keep that right hand the same. Watch what my right hand does when I hit the B minor. Downstroke, up, follow through, follow through. It's exactly the same structure as I've been using for pretty much the rest of these chords. So you have 3 fingerings right there. You can do the one I'm doing, right? Walking down to the G string, passing tone, F sharp, pull off. Or you can modify where that F sharp is. Instead of playing it right there, you can play right there, and you can move the passing tone. Instead of the passing tone here and then going here, you can go passing tone here and go there. That one probably makes the most sense. It honestly just depends on your technique. They're all kind of good. I don't know. The one that I'm doing seems like the worst of the 3, but for some reason it was just comfortable for me at the time. Obviously, you practice any of them, they're going to be fine. But yeah, so if you watch me do this, the main difference is really the B minor shape that I'm playing. The full chord shape for the latter 2 fingerings was this. Middle 4 strings of the normal B minor chord, and that would be this. 5, roll the finger to get the flat 3, root 5th. I am instead playing the 5 right here, I'm playing it here. Okay, so instead of this, with the finger roll, I'm putting the 5 and the flat 3 on the same string, allows me to do a pull off. Excuse me. So yeah, it's kind of up to you, whichever one you want. I am doing this though. So let me play all of that. So E minor, coming down, pointer finger, flat 3 to flat 3. Jumping up, little scale figure, B minor. Again, or any of the other fingerings. I'll try one of the other ones. I kind of like that one, I don't know. They're all viable. It's kind of up to you to figure out what you want to do. Again. Okay. The main thing is to figure out where you want that passing tone or where you want that 5th, the beginning note of the following chord. Now we do another little scale figure after we come down the B minor. We do this. Very simple. That's really just D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp. Kind of feels like we're walking up. Maybe a little bit of B minor. Doesn't really matter. It's just a little figure. But now we begin a sequence of chords that are not F sharp dominant, but they all come from the sound of F sharp dominant. A sound that, again, I mentioned earlier, a sound that I call spicy dominant comes from a chord that I call the spicy 3 chord. It's part of my Patreon material. If you're curious, you can check it out. But the chord shapes are this. Again, walking up. The moment we hit this, we come down this figure. What is that right there? That is F sharp augmented, what is more normally known as augmented. Again, doubling the top and bottom note. That's F sharp. You can look at this as it's sharp 5. I kind of don't. I look at it as flat 6. Again, get into the weeds, not that important. F sharp the root. We'll call it sharp 5 for now. Normal 3, and then root again. So the figure looks like this, barring these 2. Very similar, by the way, to the B minor chord of one of the fingerings, remember? See that? That's F sharp, D, B, F sharp. We're literally taking the B, moving it back a fret. F sharp, D, A sharp, and then F sharp. So that B is just moving back a fret. Very similar figure. So I'm barring here, coming down a little staircase. Okay? So after that, jump up another, there's that other same major third jump that we've been doing like this whole time, and I come down another augmented chord. So it's 2 augmented chords in a row. Jump up here. Now, the augmented shape on the D string, because of the tuning of the guitar, looks different. Interestingly enough, the augmented shape starting on the D string looks like the minor shape we just played earlier on the A string, right? That's the wonders of standard tuning, right? Gives you some wild things. So this was the shape that we played for the original E minor, the starting chord. And then this exact same shape down on the D string is an augmented chord. So let me play those two augmented chords back to back. Both of them, you can look at them as F sharp augmented. First one. Next one, jump up here. Come down that figure, right? In this case, I'm doing pointer, middle. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm almost positive that's what I'm doing. Let me play everything up to there because we got some more chords to play after that. So coming down the E minor, which looks like the same augmented shape that we just played. E minor, flat 3 to flat 3. Down a little scale figure with our passing tone. Down the B minor, little scale figure. Coming down F sharp augmented. Another F sharp augmented. Okay, which then takes us to another connected chord to the F sharp dominant. So just to give you a quick little recap, when you're playing this F sharp 7, which is a dominant 7th, moving to a minor chord, like the 5 of a minor chord, augmented, which is 1, 3, sharp 5. I don't really look at it like that, but you can think about it like that. That is a replacement chord, meaning you can play that instead of the dominant, right? Because the note that you're changing, instead of normal major or dominant, you have a normal 5. When you take that 5, move it up a fret, it might seem like a weird note, but that note is actually the third of the next chord. So it's a very normal note you're adding in, right? You're actually just foreshadowing the next chord. So you can always replace the normal dominant with an augmented chord, right? And that's what we're doing, another one. And then we're doing what? After we come down this second augmented, we're doing this. What is that? That is a diminished chord, right? That is a connected diminished chord to this F sharp 7, right? Even though it looks different, the name is totally different. This will be G diminished. It is a connected chord to that F sharp dominant. Again, if you are ever playing a dominant 7th chord, moving to a minor chord like this, F sharp to B minor. If you take that F sharp dominant 7th, I'll play it like this. Move the root up 1 fret to play this note, what feels like the flat 2. You are now playing the connected diminished. Again, feels like a wacky chord, bunch of different notes, right? But nearly all of these notes are in the key, right? The only note that's not is this one, that A sharp. But all 3 of these notes, including that note that you changed, you get rid of the F sharp, play the G. That note is also in the key, right? If we're sort of in the key of B minor, which we are during this moment, G is in the key. Right? That's part of the B minor normal minor scale, right? So it feels like this really wild out sound. It's not that out, but to some people it will be, and it's not. There's really only one note that is out of the sound entirely, and that's this A sharp. By the way, the only note that was out during the augmented chord was also that same A sharp. So even though all of these sounds are really wild, you play augmented, and then the diminished, all this stuff, there's only one note in that entire sequence that is not in the key, and that's the A sharp. And what is the A sharp? The note directly behind B, the leading tone into B. That's why it's so satisfying sounding. So just to recap, get away from all the theory stuff, coming down this F sharp augmented chord, another one up top. Then we reach up here, see my pinky, it's free and ready to go. I'm playing this note right here, coming down this chord, right? That is a normal diminished 7 chord. If you're wondering where this comes from, remember, it's F sharp dominant 7th with the root moved up a fret. Look at this. Isn't that F sharp 7, right? It's kind of coming from this chord right here. This would be F sharps 3, flat 7, 1, 5. Guess what I'm doing? Taking the 1, which is my pointer finger. How do I know that's 1? Because it's up an octave from this one. Taking that 1, moving it up 1 fret, and guess what chord I have? Diminished, right? That's how this stuff was originally developed. One more time, coming down the augmented. Augmented again. Diminished right here on the pinky. Okay, so that's 3 of these 4-string chord shapes descending in a row. And again, each one I'm doing downstroke, upstroke, follow through, follow through. Watch my right hand. Next one. Next one. It's all exactly the same. And by the way, I think for the most part, I'm pretty much, except for that second augmented chord, I'm pretty much playing them exactly how the chord would feel naturally. Like that's how you play that chord. That's the fingering I'm using. This one, not really. Pointer, middle, to allow my pinky to be free to play this. And I'm coming down the exact same fingering that you would use to play this diminished chord right there. Right, really simple. I'm going to play everything up to that point, okay? So coming from the E minor, little shape with the passing tone, B minor, right? Walk up, little scale, little melody, come down augmented. Another one, diminished. From here, we now reach up and grab this note on top, do a little melody, and look at the note we finally end on. D major. Now, something interesting happening right here. At this point, we are repeating everything we did in the previous section, starting on that D, coming down G, except it's a little variation. It's the same harmony, but a little bit of a variation. So when you do this loop, as you loop it, the beginning will be slightly different, okay? So let me play everything up to that point, coming down E minor, okay? Little figure with the passing, little scale, excuse me, one more time. F sharp augmented, again, diminished, coming up to this note right here, walk down. Now when we get to this final note, this D, we come down this figure. That's another D major shape, right? If you think about D major right here, I'm just playing the top 4 strings descending root, 5th, 3rd, root. Same structure, right? The top note is being doubled in the bottom. Root on the top, root on the bottom. This is the D chord here, this is the D chord there, right? The only difference is this one has fifths on the top and bottom, this one has roots on the top and bottom, right? Okay, so from here, we're almost done with this. We play that figure. We reach up and grab the major 7, so we're kind of implying D major 7 a little bit. Major 7 right here. Notice that jump is the same jump we've been sort of doing, not 100%, but pretty close. Reach here. Now what are we doing there? D major 7, right? Reaching up for the 7. We walk down a scale figure like this. And we end here on this F sharp. What are we really playing right there? If you want to look at it as D major 7 or D, it's the 7, 6, 5, 4, and then ending on what feels like D's 3rd, but it's really the 7 of the next chord, right? What is this chord shape? G major 7, following in the footsteps of the previous part, just slightly different. If you remember how we were getting into the G earlier, we did this. Right, just literally G triad, 1, 5, 3, 1. Now we're getting into the G with 7, 5, 3, 1. Slightly different, again, just for fun, right? And notice the shape. Doesn't it look really similar to the F sharp dominant I was playing earlier? Really similar. That was flat 7, 5, 3, 1. Now we're up a fret because we're playing G and we're not playing flat 7 anymore. We're playing normal 7. So remember the distance between 5 and flat 7, always 3 frets like we talked about in the previous video, but now we're playing normal 7. So it's not here, it's now here, up 1 more fret. So the distance between 5 and normal 7 feels like 2 whole steps. Same distance, for example, between 1 and 3, like 1, 2, 3. 5, 6, 7, same distance. So you want to memorize those distances. It will really help you kind of look at the fretboard in a more complete way. So coming down after you hit that G major 7, everything from here is exactly the same as what you did in the previous video coming from the G chord. Okay, so watch this. G major 7, everything from here you already know. Right, all that F sharp 7, it's exactly the same, okay? So a little twist on the intro, but that's pretty much what it is. I'll play from that D chord up top. Here's our little melody. D chord, watch this, come down. Hit the 7, walk down the scale. Hit the 7 of the G, walk down the chord. Then jump up, excuse me. Do exactly what you just did in the previous video. I'm going to recap all of that. By the way, a lot of these little scale figures, as I was just thinking, there's a lot of ways to do this. Like, you don't have to do this. If you want to go, like, what's another fingering? You can do that too. I don't know, that doesn't really set you up that well for the chord. If you did the fingering like this, if you played G, F sharp on the same string, you'd probably have to come down the arpeggio here, which is fine, and then you have to reach here, so I don't know, maybe this one is the best fingering. Coming down, that's, you can just look at this as, let's look at this as the 7 of D, 7, 6, 5, 4, and then landing here for that G major 7. Again, fingering up to you. Let's do the entire thing coming from E minor, here we go. With my fingering. 2 augmented, diminished, D, major, reach up for the 7, walk down, G major 7, walk down, and then you do exactly what you've already been doing. And then when we get there, we'll do a slight little change for the second repetition in the next video. So what I just played right there is actually what this backing track is going to be. It's going to be a little bit longer because we are getting back into the loop with that slightly different introduction to the loop. I'll play everything one more time without talking, nice and slow. And remember, when you hit this G major 7, the moment you hit the bottom and you jump back up, you already know that. That's what we did already in the previous video, so that part should come pretty naturally once you get it. The main thing is getting that connection, right? The difference comes from here. This D major, instead of playing it here, that's how we were originally getting into it, right? Now we're doing this. D major, come down like this, and then continuing, so on and so forth. So that's pretty much it. Let's get on to this backing track, and then we're going to talk about the longer backing track where we will pretty much play everything we've done so far. All right, for this final track, what we're going to do is play what we did in the previous video plus what we did today. So it's going to feel like almost the entire B section from start to finish with the loop. So I'm going to play everything and kind of walk you through what we're going to be doing in this backing track. So we start with this D major 5th to 5th. Come down like normal. Then when we get here, this is where we started today, coming down this E minor. Little passing tone, augmented, diminished. That's the variation. In reality, the loop has sort of started over at this point, but we're just hitting the D major instead of here, we're hitting it here. And that came down like this. Bam. Then from here, it's all the same. We stop, and we do the whole thing over again. So I'll do it slowly without talking, coming from this D. Again. So on and so forth. That's what that part is going to be. So, practice the connection. Make sure you have all these little changes. There are a lot of small little chords going on in here, so make sure you don't necessarily have to be thinking about what they are in the moment, but you definitely, when you're practicing this at least, you want to think about what those small shapes are. Like this first one, that's a D chord. Why? Because that's your root right here. And you're coming down 5th, 3rd, root 5th, right? Next one, This shape right here is a G chord. Why? Because that's the root, and you're coming down root, fifth, third, root. Every single chord that you play, you don't have to think about it in the moment, in real time while you're playing, but you still want to be able to stop and say, what did I just play? You don't want to look at these as just finger patterns. You want to back it up with what the actual sound is, what the actual numbers of the chord are, and to be completely full about it, or to be completely total about it, you do want to be able to cover what the actual letters are also, right? You don't just necessarily want to look at this as flat 3, 1, 5, flat 3 of E minor, even though that's great and that's like a necessity. You want to be able to back it up with this note is G, E, B, and G again, right? That will help you not only understand the core sound of the chord, knowing that it's minor starting on the flat 3, ending on the flat 3, but you'll also back it up with the actual letters that make that chord what it is. So yeah, practice whatever you need. Get your fingerings comfortable, even if they're not exactly the same as mine, perfectly fine. Come back to this part of video and we'll get on to this longer backing track. That does it for part 4 of this small arpeggio power-up. As usual, if you enjoy this type of instruction and material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below for my entire guitar method. See you all in part 5.